Your Excellency, Jane Opoku, Ajman Vice President, Republic of Ghana, Your Excellency, Dr. Nkosazana Dlamini Zuma, Chair of the Advisory Council of the APD, Your Excellency, my sister, this sister, Dr. Fatima Al-Sheikh, Secretary General of the BADIA, Your Excellency, my dear sister, Dr. Asfour Amani, President of the Africa Business Council, my dear friend, Gabi Asare Oche, DARCO Executive Chairman and founder of the Africa Prosperity Network. It's both a privilege and a profound responsibility to address you today on behalf of the African Union Commission at the pivotal gathering, the Africa Prosperity Dialogue 2025. This year themes delivering Africa's single market through infrastructure, invest, connect, integrate, is not just a call to action, but a clarion call for unity, innovation, and bold leadership as we collectively work to transform the Africa Continental Free Trade Area from a visionary framework into a live reality for all Africans. The AfCFTA stands as one of the most ambitious and transformative initiatives in Africa's history. It is more than a trade agreement. It is a blueprint for unlocking Africa's vast economic potential, fostering industrialization, and driving inclusive growth. Yet, the realization of this vision hinges one of the critical enabler, infrastructure. Without modern, efficient, and interconnected infrastructure, the promise of a single market will remain unfulfilled. Infrastructure is not merely a facilitator of trade, it is the foundation upon which Africa's economic future will be built. Transport corridors, digital networks, energy systems, and trade facilitation mechanisms are the arteries that will connect our economies, empower our business, and enable Africa to compete on the global stage. However, the challenge is stark. The African Development Bank estimates that Africa faces an annual infrastructure financing gap of $68 billion to $108 billion. Bridging this gap demands innovative financing solutions, robust public partnership, and a concerted effort to mobilize private sector capital. We must also leverage blended finance mechanisms and explore new avenues of investment to ensure that infrastructure projects are not only viable but also sustainable. The private sector is the lifeblood of the Africa economic transformation. To unlock its full potential, we must create an enabling environment that reduces trade barriers, harmonizes regulation, and foster policy coherence across borders. The African Union Commission is committed to work hand in hand with financial institutions, investors, and businesses to de-risk investment and accelerate the delivery of cross-border infrastructure projects. Our message to the private sector is unequivocal. You are not just the stakeholders in this journey, you are its driving force. Government and development institutions must work tirelessly to create the conditions that empower business to thrive, innovate, and lead Africa integration agenda. The journey to deliver Africa's single market is one we cannot undertake alone. Collaboration with development finance institutions, multilateral partners, and global investors is essential. Initiatives such as the Africa Investment Forum, the Program for Infrastructure Development Africa, PIDA, and the G20 Compact with Africa underscore the importance of international cooperation in advancing our infrastructure agenda. Yet, while partnerships are vital, Africa infrastructure investment must be guided by African ownership, aligned with our strategic priorities and anchored in a long-term sustainability. Ladies and gentlemen, the time for deliberation is over. We have the vision, the strategies, and the political will. What we need to now is unwavering commitment, decisive action, and measurable results. However, to realize Africa's full potential, we must decisively address the infrastructure funding gap. Africa Traditional funding models heavily reliant on sovereign debt and concessional lending are no longer sufficient. We must rethink our approach, moving away from direct lending toward risk mitigation mechanisms that unlock substantial private sector flow. The African Union Commission is playing a pivotal role in advancing innovative financing mechanisms to bridge this gap, ensuring infrastructure investments are sustainable, bankable, and attractive to investors. Our focus is on, first, risk mitigation through first loss guarantee funds. By establishing first loss capital structure, we can de-risk projects and crowd in private investment at scale. This fund serves as a buffer, absorbing initial losses to incentivize institutional investor, pension fund, and sovereign wealth fund to commit capital to Africa infrastructure. Second, insurance and reinsurance solution, recognizing that upcountry risks is a major deterrent for investors. We are promote risk coverage through insurance and reinsurance mechanisms. These instruments safeguard against political risks, foreign exchange volatility, and other macroeconomic uncertainty, ensuring greater investor confidence. Three, reforming the role of the credit rating agency. Unfair and overly conservative rating by international agencies continue to inflate borrowing costs for the African economies, creating an artificial barrier to investment. The EU is actively advocating for a more balanced and transparent rating agency, while also working toward an Africa-led credit rating agency to offer alternative assessment that reflect the true investment potential of African investors. Five, blended finance and de-risking investment. We are leveraging blended finance model that combine concessional funds with private capital to lower risk exposure. These include using local debt and equity instruments to anchor projects, thus reducing foreign exchange risk and enhancing long-term financial sustainability. Six, securitization and credit enhancement. Africa must take full advantage of risk transfer mechanisms such as securitization and credit enhancement. Through partial risk credit guarantees and credit wrap instruments, we can enhance credit worthiness, making African infrastructure projects more attractive to global institutional investors. Stable and predictable regulatory framework. This is the last one. Investment thrives in an environment of stability. We are working with member states to ensure clear, predictable, and harmonized regulatory framework that facilitate long-term infrastructure finance and to reduce policy uncertainty and enhance investors' trust. As a full member of the G20, the African Union is actively shaping global financial governance to address Africa infrastructure deficit. Our priority is to first advocate the global financing reform. We are pushing for a recalibration of the global financial architecture to ensure more concessional financing, increased participation of African financial institutions in global market, and expand the role for private sector financing in Africa infrastructure. Second, mobilize G20 support for infrastructure development. We are engaging with multilateral development banks, development finance institutions, DFIs, and sovereign wealth fund to scale up investment in Africa's strategic infrastructure project. Third, promote Africa as an investment destination. By amplifying Africa's voice in global economic governance, we aim to shift perception about investment risk, demonstrating the continent economic resilience, innovation potential, and policy reform that create enabling environment for long-term. Excellency, ladies and gentlemen, Africa stands at the defining moment in its history. We can either remain a continent of untapped potential or rise as a global economic powerhouse. The choice is ours. The time is incremental progress is over. This is the moment for bold action, transformative change, and a collective commitment to building an Africa that thrives. Government must accelerate regulatory framework, eliminate trade barriers, and create an environment conducive to investment. Investors must step forward with capital, committing to bankable projects and deliver both financial returns and social impact. Third, financial institutions must innovate and look in blended finance solution that bridges the funding gap. And fourth, business must seize the opportunities of single market, scaling up investment in a cross-border trade and value chain. As I conclude, we engage in this critical dialogue over the coming days, let us remember that the future of Africa prosperity is not a distant dream. It is a reality we can shape together. Let us invest in infrastructure and connect our people, integrate our economies, and deliver a single market that transfers the lives of Africa's 1.4 billion citizens. The African Union Commission remains steadfast in its commitment to working with all stakeholders, government, investors, multilateral institutions, and private sector actors to ensure that Africa infrastructure ambition translate into tangible, high-impact projects that drive trade, industrialization, and inclusive growth. Together, let us build an Africa that is not only prosperous, but also united, resilient, and fully integrated into the global economy. Allow me to wish you fruitful deliberation, and thank you very much.
Many thanks to you, the Director, EDTI, Africa Union Commission, Mr. Djamel.